Welcome to The Advisory, the first and last advice show on the internet, where we answer questions to learn a little bit more about what it means to be human. All advice is final and legally binding. James, can I please see the disclaimer?
Oh, you can see the disclaimer, and you will hear it as well, unfortunately, because I did forget to take it out. So, hey, we're just going to hit the button and see what happens.
The following show features goofs performed either by professionals or under the supervision of professionals. Accordingly, Black Swan Society and the idiots in front of you must insist that no one attempt to actually follow any advice spewed into the world on this show.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that legal disclaimer. A real person that's definitely not a robot that we've employed.
Definitely. And speaking of, AI, I figure that AI lady who we definitely have to come up with a very cool name for at some point.
Okay. Let's not make a snap decision. I think we should do it correctly and we should do it properly.
Digital Dana.
Just like pretty good.
Oh,
I was gonna say Kilobyte Karen, but I think yours might be better.
Oh, Kilobyte Karen's very good as well, actually.
Digital, that's quite good.
Well, I figure AI is sort of replacing everyone's jobs. And she's already replacing the disclaimer section,
right?
And I figured
soon. I assume
they could just replace us too.
Oh, goodness gracious me! Yeah. What's going on with what do you look? Your kind of eyes are looking at two different places there, bud.
Yeah, you're one to talk, mate. I think if you take a look at that picture, your eyes are looking in two different directions as well.
And also, like, my headphones appear to be plugged into the base of my skull, which is sort of fun. They captured the swoop of my hair, though, so that's something.
So AI, it makes me look in two different directions. It makes you look in two different directions.
Just makes us all look all over the place, mate. All over the show.
I don't know why, because I was like, well, I'm going to get AI to sort of create wonderful painting versions of us. And unfortunately, it created ourselves as it sees us, but in a more terrifying, uncanny valley fashion.
Sort of a haunting, perhaps how other people see us might be the unfortunate truth behind that.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
I think because it's sort of because that AI, it accentuates the key features, right? So it's like, the orange in my beard gets more orange. The swoop becomes the defining, we both look like we can't look where we go. Like, it just sort of accentuates all the things that you might be potentially a little bit insecure about or that are your defining features. And I assume that's how people think about you when they don't know you personally.
Definitely. I don't want to get blue, but do you think that AI enhances or shrinks up the hog if it had to sort of digitally do recreate it?
Some hog work? I mean, mine couldn't get any smaller, so I assume bigger.
Maybe it would just misinterpret it as something else and create sort of like that TikTok filter that people are using to turn them into like an anime character at the moment. Maybe it'll just turn your sort of like your whole region into sort of a little like chipmunk or a nice little cat or something. Yeah.
It'll think it's like a different image entirely. Yeah. It'll be like a charcuterie platter or something. Like,
Oh. A delicious ensemble of meats. Okay, very nice.
Yeah. A charcuterie board, this is, not to segue too hard, I feel like a good charcuterie board, if you're making it yourself, very worthy investment. I think sometimes when you're at like a restaurant or a bar or something and it's a bit bougie and you get yourself a charcuterie board and you're forking out like $50, and all they've done is like arrange salami and pickles on a board.
They've opened some shit, basing and they slapped it down on a bit of wood.
They've opened, and sometimes that's what you want. Don't get me wrong, but if I'm going to a bar or something like that, and we've done this, right? We go out together sometimes. I'm not getting a charcuterie. I'm getting like something I would like. I'm getting like a wings or a fries or a burger. Like I'm getting something that's like it takes a bit of effort. And every fucking time I go out with this select group of coworkers, and I won't name names, but you know who the fuck you are.
You know who you are, Daniel. You know who you are, Barry. You know who you are, Brenda.
Oh,
but we
covered off a list of people. Yeah, I won't name names. But like, someone's always like, "Oh, we got to get that charcuterie board," and it's always like a bad investment. Like, I just don't understand that, and they insist on doing it every time.
At some point, it's your fault. I'm sorry, but you need to turn around at some point and lay the gauntlet down on the table and say, guys, we've charcutered too often, and we've charcutered too close to the sun, and you know how dog shit it gets. It's never worth it. I tried
to intervene. No, so what happened? I tried to intervene and be like, perhaps we should, I can't do there's a pun there about like charcuterie. Anyway, but I was like, we shall charcuterie no more. I think we should get something different. Maybe like get some fries or some wings or something. And they were like, to pair with this, wine. And I was like, yeah, like wine, or we could switch to beer. And they were like, we're staying on wine. And so it was like immediately shut down. And so I feel like I need a new strategy next time.
The new strategy is you bring a packet of wax sealed Baby Bell cheeses, and the next time some cunt says I need something to go with my wine, you whip one right at their noggin.
And one of those like
and you say we sure can't anymore.
That's what the joke. Yeah, I couldn't get to it. Sure can't was what I was after. I was also thinking you could get those, like, you know how you go to the grocery store and rather than the deli itself, you go to the deli aisle and you can get like the 4-pack of like, you know, ham or something like that. That's like the lowest quality meat they sell.
Yeah.
Just slap one of those on the table. Be like, you're fucking welcome.
Not a Don, because it's Don. It's good.
It's good.
So we don't want to do that, because that might confuse them, and they're going to keep on charcuterie.
They might think it's a fun treat for drinks with friends.
Yeah. With a fun little game element that you've incorporated by, again, whipping Baby Bells at them. So
it's and you know what? I think a lot of times pubs don't have enough things being thrown at people in Australia. So
they really don't.
That's something we could,
they've taken all the fun out of it. Yep. All the glass cups got taken away. Thanks a lot.
Oh,
bars.
There's no way to hurt people anymore. Let's get some little small hard packets of cheese.
I guess
people.
Thanks a lot. Liquor and licensing industry of Australia. I guess I'll just go back to my fists. Boring.
I guess I'll have to king hit them with my elbow instead of a glass.
Wow, that's fucked up, dude. That's fucked up.
Yes, I'm not a good person. How you feel about, this is the last thing I'll ask on this before we move on, because I have a fun little spicy, it's something you're just not going to believe. Or maybe you will, because it's the end of the world and nothing makes sense anymore. What's your take on, like, so I go to a local brewery all the time that's near me. They're very chill, they're very family friendly. You know, as much as a brewery can be. But like, they're very lax. So if the kitchen's
I've always found that sort of aspect of breweries going for family friendliness quite odd, but yeah.
Same. Yeah. But like, I go there often. I'll sit there and write and have a few beers. Like, you know, I'm not just a regular. Like, they know me. I've got, you know, I text with a lot of people that work there. Like, I'm friends with the people that own it and run it. Like, I have a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
And like, if the kitchen's closed, so like they're open like Wednesday through Sunday, and sometimes the kitchen will be closed like Wednesday or Thursday night for whatever reason, just like the staff, they can't get the staff or whatever. And on those nights, if you're there, they'll be like, hey, we're gonna get a pizza. Do you want something to eat? Because I'm a regular, so I might get like a few slices of Zar. Now, I think this is interesting because for an array of reasons. It's not food they're ordering in to share with other customers. It's just that they know me, so they're like, do you want a few slices of Zar if we're ordering some pizza? Because the staff need to eat, right?
I have, I have like a different theory, but yeah, continue.
Okay. Well, okay. Interesting. Keen to hear that. But what I think is really interesting is they're not super, like, if the kitchen's closed, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, you can't bust open a bag of crisps or whatever, like a bag of chips. They're not going to police that. They're just going to be cool with that.
Right. Okay.
I feel like a lot of places, it's like outside food is you've brought a bomb into the restaurant.
Yeah, very much
like,
so.
They give you that look of like, so you can't detonate that in here.
Excuse me, sir, but I know fully well that we don't serve sour cream flavored grain waves in this establishment, so I'm going to need you to take that family-sized packet that you've definitely brought from home, and I'm going to need you to get out.
Get out of here. Yeah, I'm going to need you to leave. How do you feel? Yeah, so first of all, what's your alternate opinion? And then second, how do you feel about like the outside food scenario on the nights when the kitchen is closed?
Well, my theory in your situation is that they don't actually like you. And hear me out, right? You're a lovable guy, and I love you. Okay, and that's all that matters.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Before you say anything else, it's not unreasonable that someone might not like me. Okay. Most people I meet don't like me. So, like, let's get that straight, right? I'm not particularly lovable.
Very abrasive.
I'm quite morose and hard to approach, and I've been people. We moved into a new office at work, and so I'm finally seeing people for the first time in like a month in person. And we have this new guy, and they're like, "Oh, this is DMAC, blah 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 blah." And someone, and he walked away, and someone turns to me and they go, "You know, that was a very complimentary introduction. I would have described you as distant and cold." And I was like, "Accurate."
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, accurate.
Also, so yeah, thank you for feeling the need to immediately follow up that kind of introduction
to like
with
editorial.
Yeah, you fucking can't.
It was,
well, my theory is that they're like, hey, DMAC, want a couple slices of Czar? And you're like, DMAC always fanging for Czar. That's what you say back, because that's how you talk. And then they sort of just see, Tom got pizza for lunch 3 days ago, but they haven't taken the bins out yet. And the sort of the Domino's box is sitting on top of all the trash, and they just sort of open the lid, see the 3 slices of Czar in there, reheat them and give them to you.
That's a good theory. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because it's strange because they don't serve pizza at the establishment.
They don't. Yeah.
Hey, I was joking.
No,
but that's a concern.
No. So, well, the detail that you don't have to connect the dots here is a delivery driver will rock up with boxes of pizza.
Oh, well, dude, then get the fuck out of here then. I'm sorry, but you guys are allowed to bring in outside food, but I'm not allowed to bring in outside food? Nah, fuck you.
If you're bringing outside food to your establishment, that is a get out of jail free card for anyone else bringing in outside goods to your establishment.
Absolutely. And you have a position to argue that from, because you can just say to them, look, I didn't think that it would be okay, and normally I wouldn't, but I did see you guys do it. So you're actually setting the precedent there for me, and you're establishing that that's an okay rule.
That's an okay thing to do.
So I'm going to go back to my brainwaves, and if you interrupt me again, well, I can't glass you because they are plastic cups now. So I'm gonna biff you.
They're glass. It's glass there.
Oh, they're keeping it dangerous in there. Okay.
It was in the suburbs, so that they're not sort of restricted by the same like inner city rules.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
So if you ever want to fight me, you know where to find me. That's all I would say.
Okay. Why would I want to?
Yeah.
Sorry, do I sort of have like a reason to, or?
Oh no, that was for the audience.
What's
that wasn't for you specifically.
Oh,
that
not
wasn't
for me.
For you.
Okay.
That was just a general invitation.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants David's personal address, just DM me. You see the thing down there, and I'll get it to you, and we can arrange this fight. Or you can sort of spring the fight on him as he's walking to his car in the morning to drive to work. Yeah, so that'd be fun.
That'd be good. I like a surprise fight as much as the next man.
In terms of sneaking food into places, an old friend of mine used to exclusively sneak in McDonald's to the cinema anytime we went to the movies.
I was going to say, cinema, you need to be... I sneak in... So when I go to the theater, right, if I can sneak in food, like if I have apparatus with me, I will do so. I'll sneak in. I always take a hip flask. Like I ain't watching a film sober. Like I'm not a fucking animal. Yeah. All right.
You drive to the cinema though, so that's concerning. Yep.
I don't drive anymore. I get someone else to drive.
Right.
One of my friends doesn't drink, so I'm like, you're always driving.
Perfect.
And then I have been known before if I've got like a backpack or like a laptop bag or something. So like when we used to go to press screeners, there would be 2 halves of the cinema. You'd have the dark half and the light half. So the light half was for the review. I mean, literally, like one half of the cinema, they'd have some of the at least 2 or 3 of the lights on, so you could take notes and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because everyone was using their phones to take notes, but whatever. Yeah. And then you have like the dark half, which is like where people who've won like radio contests and stuff would sit. And we weren't important enough to get on the reviewer side, even though we got the early screening.
Yeah.
So they would sit us
always enforcing some kind of hierarchy, aren't they?
Constantly. And we would get the seats. We would get like the seats left over from the radio competition winners that didn't like cash them in, kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
So it'd be like
sorry, we did try to fill these last 2 seats this morning, but in the cash prize sort of giveaway, the person did actually get the last 2 answers wrong. So we do have 2 free for you if you'd like to go. They are dark half seats. Because you're not good enough. I just want to reiterate.
You're not good enough.
You're not getting on the light half, all right? And I won't tell you again. Stop asking me.
The worst part about it is you rock up and you'd have like whatever the press packet thing was. Like, they would give you like a little bag and you have like some freebies and stuff, and you'd get whatever the free themed cocktail was or whatever. And so you'd have that, and you'd sort of, all of the normal people would be looking at you, and you'd sort of, in a bout of shame, walk through the entire cinema up to the very back seats and fill in the last 2 empty ones.
Yeah. You've got your little,
And
you're there
just
seeing
kinda-
the Batman, you've got Joker's magical piss cocktail.
Yeah.
And you're sort of,
Legit.
finding your way through the dark.
We saw Batman v Superman, and they sat us in the worst possible seats, which was like, it was a split cinema where you sort of had like an upper balcony and then the main stage, and we were like the furthest back on the bottom bit, so
Right.
you didn't have the benefit of the parallax of being closer where you could kind of look at it directly, and you weren't elevated enough to look at it straight on. So the entire cinema experience for us was
Oh, fuck off. Who designed this fucking cinema?
it was sadistic as hell. But one of the things that used to do in that is like you get your free cocktail or whatever, and because it was mostly press and like no one really bothered you because you had the press badge on or whatever, or the lanyard. I just used to take in like a little baggie, and within that I have a little esky, a few brewskis, a few beers. It was the chillest experience.
Right.
Just pop a few brews with the boys.
Pretty different experience for my old mate. He would so he'd go to Macca's, he'd scull the drink beforehand, and then he would take the burger and hide it down inside the empty cup, and then put the fries on top, then put the lid back on.
Oh, the cup is coming in.
Yeah. So he's taking the cup in, and he's just like, oh, I've just got my drink or whatever. And they're like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. And then, but he's got his whole fucking meal in there. He's ready to go.
So the burger's sort of the plug at the bottom to sort of insulate the fries from any remaining moisture, because the burger's wrapped up.
Yeah.
See, you couldn't do that now because most of the burgers come in little boxes, don't they?
You'd have to
recyclable boxes.
You'd have to debox raw dog it right down there in the guck and muck of your cup.
It's gonna get the bun's gonna get squishy, isn't it?
That being said, the one other time that I vividly remember that someone brought outside food to the cinema was my girlfriend and I. It's just forever ago. 27 Dresses. Sam wanted to see 27 Dresses in the cinema, so we go see it. There is no one in this fucking cinema. No one. There's like Sam and I. There's 2 women, forever away, and then there's this one woman on her own who comes in and just decides to sit 1 seat over from me. It is a huge cinema too. It's a big cinema.
Empty. I bet it's empty as well. Like empty theater.
Completely empty. In this, there's 5 people total in the cinema, including us.
James, that's the equivalent of like if you're in the like a 5 urinal scenario.
Yeah,
and if you're in a
shoulder to shoulder,
urinal, shoulder to shoulder for no reason.
Yeah, and
uncomfortable.
She I think I've told this before on various podcasts, but she was eating what I could only describe is a tub of hot meat. And she was, and I'm not even fucking kidding, she was scooping it with her hand and eating this like hot meat paste, this ground up hot meat, and was eating it, and you could smell it, and it just smelled like hot meat. Like,
yeah, she's gone to like a kebab place and been like, just give me a bucket of your kebab meat.
Shave it right into me bucket. That's just
right into my bucket.
And I just remember her vividly. She would die laughing at bits that weren't funny, and then the bits that were funny that everyone else was laughing at, she was always laughing a lot longer than way past when everyone had stopped. So everyone would do a chuckle, haha, that's funny, and she is still fucking giving it to it, reeling.
I cannot deal
while
with
shoveling the meat mixture into her gob. So it's
with
some of it
flecks of meat.
Yeah, some of it is muffled by the meat.
The meat. Now that you're saying it out loud though, I think a bucket of meat, I'm not against it. If as a principle, I think that's not against it. Do you know what I mean? It's just as a vehicle, if you were like, oh, there's this really good Mediterranean braised beef, and it comes and they slice it into little sheets.
Yes,
just pop one of. But the idea of mince is very upsetting.
The problem is that you've thought about it in how can I make that delicious way? It's almost like she said, how do I take offal and make it worse, and then eat it in public?
Make it even more foul.
Yeah.
Talking about foul things. So you messaged me earlier today. I'm just going to read a brief bit of... I got to find a way to do this without messing up my setup. I just want to read a brief bit of this exchange. And we're going to get a little bit blue. Okay, a little bit blue. All right. So you were saying that, you go to TikTok, you put in podcast clips, and it's all just like fuck podcasts, where it's people talking about sex and cum and all this stuff, and it's usually
if you have TikTok, do it now. Go to TikTok, type in podcast or podcast clips into the search, and all of the top results go to top. It'll default to top, and then just flick through, and the videos start to autoplay, and just listen to a couple seconds of each of them. And it's all I literally scroll through, and one guy's like, oh, I prefer it much better when I have a finger in my ass. And then the next one, it's someone else talking about fucky fuck cum stuff. And the next one, it's just a sea of jizz.
Yeah. And so I was like, I remember looking into this when it was very early days. This was like 2018 when this became an acceptable thing to talk about on podcasting. So I did, and I messaged it. I thought it was Den of Geek. I don't think it was. I can't find this article, but I did an op-ed at the time about a particular Australian podcast that was like a sex-positive podcast, but it was really just this like guys for like self-help spirituality shit. A lot of them, right? Because I feel like there are two flavors of like podcasts that are in this realm. It's either, I should say three. It's either young, attractive women who get views because they're young and attractive talking about sex. It's incredibly sexist dudes being incredibly sexist. Or it's someone who clearly is trying to get you into the sales funnel of their like self-help business.
Right. Yeah. And once they get you onto their shop site, they're like, now you're really going to want to buy the 120 capsule pack of the ashwagandha root. And that's really going to help you maintain a very strong erection for several hours. So, yeah.
So
then they sell you the light baths that they like to do. Who's that cook that went real crazy? Pete Evans. He's all into like light baths. Yeah. He's into lights cure Cove. Can't say Cove because you'll get a little thing on your podcast, but he does. He's into that.
It's that, the spicy cough. So let me. What I want to try. I'm gonna read you a bit of an article from a really talented writer that I quite enjoy.
Is it you?
I'm gonna make. No, it normally would be. It's Coco Khan, really really talented writer. I'm gonna read you a section, and I want you to try and guess the other things about these podcasters that you might intuit from the content of what they're talking about.
Okay.
Just about their worldview, things they might be interested in,
who they vote for,
who they vote for, things they do or may not do.
Okay.
So this is from Coco Khan's article. I can't read the title because it'll give it away. But so I'll just read you this segment. Haynes and Talbot, so Haynes is the wife, Talbot's the man, the husband in the relationship. Haynes and Talbot didn't mean to record themselves having sex. It just sort of happened. Quote, "We intended to have sex off the podcast and then come and talk about it," says Talbot. But that first recording in April 2021, dreamed up just a few months earlier, developed its own momentum, says Hayes, as the talk about sex turned easily to foreplay and then the act itself. Their approach to the podcast sex segments is to talk through what they're doing and how it feels in unflinching detail. The choice of words ranges from the ethereal, quote, "I see your light shining," one of them might say as they revel in each other's energy and aura, to terms ordinarily censored. "Lacey is tugging on my blank.
All right.
Talbot might say, or from Haynes, he's licking my side blank. It is not a podcast we listen to in public. Listeners hear them pant, moan, and direct each other to orgasm. In many ways, we're living in the age of the overshare, where giving too much information turns ordinary people into viral stars. Indeed, a quick look at the podcast charts makes clear that subjects that were once highly personal, psychotherapy, pregnancy, and sex, are driving serious engagement. But even by today's standards, Lacey and Flynn have sex shocks. I want to pull out this other article that I thought this part of the article that I thought was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I highlighted it. What did I say about it?
I will say, while you're searching for that, I'm all for, things that were once taboo, losing that, the veil's being pulled back and we're not all being fucking prudes about shit. You know what I mean? I'm all for that, so we can talk about, because in that sense, mental health and things like that, people don't feel so alienated and they feel like they can talk about those things. So, it is important that stuff is losing its taboo or whatever, but
100%.
At the same time, it is just funny that, I don't know if it's, maybe podcasts are getting real horny now. Maybe we're in the wrong sort of category, because this notoriously is a very unhorny podcast.
It's very unhorny. We should get into the horny niche.
I didn't think that people would be out here, just their podcast episode is an audio porno, essentially. It's
so hard to explain. I don't want to name the podcast because I don't want to put them on blast.
Whoopsie doopsie. We accidentally hit record, took it off the SD card, put it on the computer, listened back to it, edited it, posted it.
It's so hard to explain the experience of listening to this show, because what it is like...
Oh, you get down and dirty on it. Oh, David getting randy on podcasts in 2023. Yeah, okay.
Because when you reminded me of this, I was like, I wonder if they're still going. They are still going. And it's the most bizarre experience, because they'll be talking about stuff in a faux intellectual way, like a kind of faux self-helpy kind of intellectual way, but they'll throw in words like aura and energy and shit like that.
Right. And then position themselves as like a thought leader in the space. Like people listen to it and they go, oh, these people know what they're talking about. I'll buy their ashwagandha root.
And then because they're husband and wife, one of them will say something kind of flirty or funny, and the other one will like flirt back. And then it's this bizarre experience of like, it's like in Inception, where they're lying on the train tracks and they feel the train tracks start to vibrate, and you start to feel it happen, and you're like, guys, please don't, just please wait,
guys, please focus, guys, please
on the show.
Get back to my aura and my energies. They get here we go, 20-minute interlude. These two are gonna fuck out real quick. I'm just gonna skip ahead.
And then it's like, there's like like 5 minutes later, you have to like skip through 12 minutes of them having sex and descriing it.
While they're doing it?
Yeah, well,
or is this like a director's commentary?
In real time.
Oh, okay.
so they're having sex.
I couldn't listen to this, dude. I'd be cringing out of my skin.
The craziest part about it is like, there's also like, you also get all the other stuff of like, you can hear them like if you're shuffling around uncomfortably, or you can hear like when it's not going well, and it's this bizarre like, it's so invasive, and it like it just shouldn't exist. Like it's so
theater of the mind to the highest degree.
Just bizarre. I want to tell.
I didn't think that would be a podcast. I see people chatting about like fucky fuck cum stuff as a form of like entertainment, and them like telling stories, about them dating and stuff like that. Of course you get why that has mass appeal. Tinder is really popular, and Hinge and all that shit, and people are into all the dating apps and stuff. And fucking I sounded
that was
thousand.
You sounded like me for a second.
So I was like, kids these days in their dating, that's what it sounded like. But I just mean that real... like I just mean that like move. It makes sense. It makes sense that those stories, because there's more people using those apps, engaging in one night stands and stuff.
Exactly.
Telling those stories. So it makes sense. That stuff, I get, I understand why that's entertaining to a group of people. But to just straight out be taping you fucking and giving us the director's commentary to the fuck mid fuck is the strangest thing in the world to me.
It's so weird. The other thing that's strange is like they also have certain. So if you didn't get it from Aura and Energy, they position themselves as thought leaders, but then they just have opinions that are like dangerous to have. So if you had to like blank guess something, James, out of the blue, what do you think is like an opinion? What do you think is something that in the last 2 years that they probably should have done that they haven't done?
Just sort of in podcasts?
Just in life. Just a thing that everyone agrees is the right thing to do to protect your friends and family and the people around you that they just haven't done. And you have to say it without saying the word that will get the thing
easy.
dinged.
No, easy. You ever heard of like a chicken pox party where you sort of invite, your kid has chicken pox, you invite then, your kid's friends around, everyone gets chicken pox. That's, I'm assuming, is what they did. They said, let's really look, this the protection juice, it's a couple years away at this point, because this is like beginning of 2020. They're like, let's come around, we'll get Nana around as well and Grandpa and
come round.
Okay. No. I'm just going to let you sit in that for a second. No. Yeah. It's okay.
Okay. Because that's the whole thing. Because that's the whole thing they're doing. So.
Right. So they're fucking to spread the spicy cough? Is that what they're doing? Or they're just sort of, they very much don't believe in, they think it's a hoax. It's a hoax to stop us all from fucking because they heard our podcast.
The way that they frame it is fascinating. Quote, the same characteristic that makes us able to have sex on a podcast and free birth both our children is the one that has us challenging the status quo in other realms, unquote. Bro, this type of like, this particular maneuver of the spiritual, you can't even call them left because they don't have any political ideology. It's just pure ideology. This particular maneuver of we have lived our lives this way for a long time. History supports that this thing works, that if we do this, more people are more likely to live. And you go, yeah, but we do sex on our podcast and we free birth our children, and it's all about challenging the status quo. That's not the status quo. That's challenging like ontological proven science. Challenging the status quo is being like, maybe I don't have to hate Mondays because Garfield hates Mondays. Maybe I can love Mondays. Like, those aren't fucking compatible. Those aren't compatible. Those aren't equivalent. It's a false equivalency. Like,
I think you're
mental.
You're not sort of grasping the power of wolfsbane mixed with ashwagandha root plus turmeric. Okay. I get what you're saying, sorry. And like science is cool, nerd, but us free birth and radicals, okay, who love our turmeric and who hate preservatives and the government and the lamestream media, and I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm a cough right in my partner's face. We're gonna fuck on the podcast, and then I'm gonna eat some ginger. Get the fuck out of my face, okay?
Yeah, you know what? You make a compelling point. I don't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, it's okay to be wrong sometimes, Yeah,
that's definitely what happened there. Also, I love the idea of like, and this is the last thing I'll say on the topic before we move on. I love the idea of, in the same bracket as, we recorded ourselves having sex on a podcast, and we free birthed our children. Those are not the same level of risk.
Right.
At all.
But they're just giving you a little tasty taste of their vibe. You know what I mean? They're just putting their vibe out there.
Yeah.
My vibe is I run into the woods and mid-run, I birth my child into nature, okay? And then, I pick some fruit. I make a podcast. Maybe it's dirty, Maybe the video portion goes on my OnlyFans, but the audio portion's free. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we live off grid, and and
that's
we brush our teeth with licorice. So,
oh no, we wouldn't use licorice. We would make our own non-toxic, toothpaste substitute that definitely does all the same stuff.
Dude, see, this is why you got to be on TikTok. There are people out here brushing their teeth with licorice. So, like, it's like a licorice root or a stem or something, and they chew on it, and then they brush their teeth with the stick. So,
I hate to be that guy because it sounds like, but probably use toothpaste.
Right.
I know it's a scam because you use it and then it runs out and you have to buy more. Yeah, it's a commodity. That's like saying that like bakers are only baking bread to get you to buy more bread next time.
Personally, I use Hi Smile. Use the code PODFUCK10 at checkout.
PODFUCK10.
We actually shouldn't say that. Hi Smile is actually a toothpaste company. So,
oh, is it?
Yeah. So
we're not representing.
Hey,
no
guys, just to clarify, we're not sponsored. We're not sponsored by Hi Smile. And I would very much.
Why just defend yourself? Our DG assistant did it for us at the start. You just don't want people to clip it out of context.
Legally, I get that we're covered. But it's just, I feel I have a responsibility to you, the audience, the listener.
Right.
That if you go to Hi Smile, you were really juiced on getting that purple stuff that's going to turn your teeth white. And then you go over there and you type in PODFUCK10 and then it tells you, hey, that code doesn't work. I just don't want them to be personally disappointed because that was a goof.
That was a funny. James was doing a funny one. I personally do the Shrek thing with my teeth where I sort of...
what's that?
I jump into a mud pit and then I think he squeezes like a slug and then he uses the slug juice to brush his teeth, I think. Maybe it's mud. I can't remember the opening of Shrek. He does that one. So that's my routine.
Hey, and that's what's great about this podcast, different opinions, different takeaways. So do with all of that information what you will.
Yeah,
and
you got options.
If you are fully, juiced up Randy for podcasts, DM David. His @ is on the screen and he'll send you a link to the podcast that he was talking about.
At some point, I need to find a way to update my app because I'm not on any social media anymore, so I don't know what needs to go under my face.
Just the word, 2 words, fuck off.
Fuck out of here.
Or something, send me some snail mail, that kind of energy.
Okay, that's derogatory and discriminatory and just a bit rude.
Post me a letter, that kind of stuff is what should go under sort
I'd
of...
love to get a letter, if you want to send me a letter.
And again, DM me, I'll send you David's address. You can find him and then send him a letter.
James, our first question, and probably our second before the feature, our second to last before the feature.
We have to get better at this. I think we're bad at podcasting.
I think what happens is we think of something really interesting and then we kind of follow it down the rabbit hole. And I think that sometimes the advice is is the friends we make along the way, not the questions we answer,
Oh, that's very good. That's very good.
If anyone on your advice show, you don't answer enough advice. Maybe the advice is the friends we made along the way. Okay, how about that?
Well, I'm Randy for some advice. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, this one comes from either a person or a robot on Twitter of the username 0112358G. That's the username.
Okay.
So it could be a machine, could be a person on Reddit.
To be fair, 01152 could have been taken. So
that's true. You never know.
Yeah.
I like the G at the end just to be unique.
Yeah. That was a typo, actually. I
meant to hit enter and my finger. James, I talk and shout in my sleep. I'm wondering if there's anything I can do about it. I've always been an active sleeper.
You can't fucking... I just took a sip of my drink. You can't do that to me. I talk and shout in my sleep. Are you okay? Are you okay?
It's the idea of like, I talk in my sleep and it's kind of disruptive, but to be like, you're like, yeah, you're just snoozing and you're like, oh yeah, don't do that. Francine!
I like that you like breezed over it, like it wasn't that important. Hey guys, I got, a couple issues or whatever, and I've been taking like melatonin lately. I got it. There's a fuck podcast that I listen to, and they sell it on their website. Anyway, I bought some melatonin, and sort of I've started to sort of the obvious sort of grinding teeth a little bit, so I got a little jaw thing for that, and that's good or whatever. But started to notice I'm talking a little bit in my sleep. I'm fucking absolutely blood-curdlingly screaming in my sleep as well. And sort of got a little bit of restless leg syndrome. So sleep's not going that great. What can I do?
Yeah. It's, look, I think as an opening question, like an opening part of a question, God tier.
Perfect. You've got my attention.
Yeah, I couldn't look away when I found it. I've always been an active sleeper. I love the way that people's brains work, where they're like, obviously I've always been, yeah, we know this can't have just suddenly jumped out at you. Like,
but what's the difference?
You went to bed on a Friday.
A passive sleeper is someone who just they go to bed, they lay down, they're out for 7 or 8 hours, they wake back up, they're on their way. Is an active sleeper someone who is jostling around, screaming, shouting, talking, that kind of stuff? Is that an active sleeper?
No, I think a passive sleeper is where you go to bed and they look at your statistics and skills and you either pass or fail, and then an active sleeper is where you need to roll to check each time.
Okay.
That was a joke for you tabletop players out there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, you're
D&D
welcome.
Fans.
Hey, stop DMing me and say that we, 1, don't do enough advice, and 2, don't do enough tabletop game jokes, okay?
Well, presumably with our
because
core demographic
you've had your quota filled.
Yeah. Well, like, our core demographic are probably 30-year-olds that are probably still playing Dungeons and Dragons, is all I'm saying.
Wow.
And so, like, not a dig.
Doug,
that's like,
that is so... Okay, I get... That stuff is fine, but to make a gross... fucking, you come in here and tarring and feathering everyone with the same fucking brush, dude.
Not tarring and feathering anyone.
Yeah, dude, you come in, because now we've got fucking.
Oh my
now
God.
we've got Shane, who fucking is like this baller ass dude who kicks it in the mountains with a bunch of bikers and fucking like fixes up cars and stuff and probably plows out. We've got him being like, "What the fuck? Dungeons and Dragons? Who the fuck are you talking about?" And then you've got Kel being like, "Dog, I'm doing like rad shit. I got a dog. I get tats and stuff." I don't play fucking D&D. They got no idea who you're talking about.
Was cool now. I thought D&D was cool. That's cool now. That's like the nerd shit's cool shit now.
Have you been keeping up on the drama, the D&D drama? You know that they're now charging people money and all that stuff.
Well, they're not yet. There was a leaked draft. If we say any more than that, it's going to get even more boring than already the thing I said.
Yeah, and also I just like to apologize, Shane.
They're trying to change their license.
Shane,
also,
I apologize so much.
Need the fuck. Clearly doesn't need the fuck podcast.
No, Shane is plowing out right now listening to this episode, and I would just like to say, Shane, I'm so sorry. I apologize. We won't tie you and feather you with that kind of brush over again. Thank you.
I think between us, we've made
there
enough
is someone mid kickflip right now when they heard that in their fucking AirPods, mid kickflip, and they stacked it. They went and they crashed out. They went, "What the fuck, dude?
James,
who's he talking about? He ain't talking about me." And I'd like to apologize to that guy as well.
D&D's cool now. Statistically speaking, we've both made enough podcast audio that is on enough services that at some point, someone has definitely boned down to a podcast that we've made. That just like mathematically has to be true, right? Isn't that grim to think about?
I think the only way I think what's happened there is that they've put on their fuck playlist and they've accidentally put an episode into that playlist and it's
skipped or I'm not saying someone's done it on purpose. I just mean statistically it probably has happened.
But if you have done it on purpose, very specifically,
you need to
DM us. Let us know. Yeah, at Black Swan Society.
Know about it.
We want to know.
Yeah. Okay, so my homie here is tossing and turning. They say it's been a quirk of mine my whole life, and it can be very distressing to the people I live with. I imagine it's distressing to people you don't live with, as like your neighbors.
Can't imagine why.
Does anyone have any suggestions as to how I can minimize my impact on my housemates? Imagine the first night you move in together. It's 3 a.m. and you're snug as a bug. You're having a dream about playing Dungeons and Dragons with your buddies, right? You're snug as a bug in a rug. And then from the other room, you just hear a blood-curdling screech from Carl's direction, and you get and you rush in, and Carl's just there fucking dead asleep. Just
crashed out, yeah.
Just talking to himself. Like, that, I would be like, is my housemate possessed?
Straight up puffing Z's and screaming.
Yeah. Like, is there a demon in you? Is, I guess, my question.
I like...
Should we be concerned about
But I also like that they didn't even go for, look, how do I make it stop? They said, look, I've got it. It's happening. I scream when I sleep.
They've accepted it.
Shut up and let's move on, okay? Now, how do I minimize the impact for my roommates?
I think this is the type of question where they're looking for like some crafty DIY sort of solutions, right? They're talking about, you know, leaning some mattresses on the walls. They're talking about building sort of an audio recording booth around your bed, you know, with acoustic. Like, this is the type of question where they're looking for, like, I'm going to need to go to a
creative solutions.
Yeah. I'm going to need to go to a hardware store and probably like invest in some physical items here. They're not trying to solve it internally.
My two immediate thoughts are...
Yeah, what do you got?
One, there's sort of like a big puffball thing that you can get that goes around your microphone to try and... So you don't have to do soundproofing in your room, and it tries to just deaden all the sound in there. Maybe you could craft a head-sized version of one of those so that you just sort of pop in like a little helmet and you've got the sound deadening foam around it. I'm starting to think that that's probably not great for breathing. So we're going to go with option 2, which is before you go to sleep, could you try watching a whole bunch of horror movies and try and get the screams out so that way they're not trapped in you for when you go to sleep?
That's sort of like... Okay, no, I like that approach. That's like where before a big event or something, if you're really nervous, you might rehearse it to pretend to get nervous in the rehearsal, so that when you do it, like, you're not nervous. But you're thinking like you want to kind of get all the demons out before you go to sleep.
Exactly. Yeah.
I am concerned about the period from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. every night, where your housemates are trying to eat dinner, and all they're hearing from your room is like, like kind of on like sort of a pretty regular basis.
That's a good point. You really sort of just
you've just shifted the problem.
You're shifting the screens,
and that's you know that's that time of night, James. That's where you might want to be sitting on the couch with, you know, curled up with someone you like, you know, watching a film, having a drink,
listening to your favorite fuck podcast together. Yeah,
your favorite fuck podcast. You might want to record your own fuck podcast. You might want to be on a live stream every Thursday night, 6 or 7 p.m. AEST, Black Swan, twitch.tv/Black Swan Society. You've got options as to what you could be doing on a sort of weeknight. But I personally think that actually, I don't know if I don't know if it's someone more likely to call the cops at 3 a.m. if they hear someone screeching or like 6:30 p.m. I think 3 a.m. probably.
3 a.m. 100%.
Like because that's the witching hour, as we all know.
6 p.m. is sort of, that can be, you know, a couple of ne'er-do-wells up to no good. You know what I mean? That's ne'er-do-well hour.
It could be the hanky-panky screams.
Yeah, it could be posy screams. They could be negative screams. You know, you don't know. It's hard to tell. You got to investigate.
We're not sure. Yeah.
A 3 a.m. scream is almost always bad. It's never
like, I don't think it can be, unless it's still a posy scream. And that's a little late.
Early. It's never someone up at 3 a.m. getting blazed up out of their brain. They've decided to pop on a batch of cookies and they've fucking burnt them. And they're screaming once they've seen.
They're in frustration. Yeah. Could you, and this might be controversial as a solution. One of the things that they tell you about, like, you know, audio design and like how you set up a room and things like that, which I still haven't done. I'm looking at my acoustic panels right now, is the direction in which the audio goes is where you want to diffuse it, and then you want to stop the echoes. Could you sort of, wherever your pillows are, like, you know, if you're sort of lying with your head like this, could you just sort of line up a series of panels directly above you? And that would sort of set up, and then maybe like have some below you, and that would set up like an infinite loop where the sound is just kind of, you know, the scream is sort of echoing until it's gone.
Right.
I don't know a lot about, you know, the science of audio, but that seems like that could work.
That's really good. Yeah, and the benefit there is that it occupies all of that roof space. So you know that the guy can't write in UV, you know, sort of paint on the roof, I'm under your bed, very sort of idle hand style. So, and that's not going to spook you awake.
That's a benefit. The negative is you can't put up a poster of Josh Brolin, or one of the Jonas Brothers. So that's also you kind of it's a trade-off.
Mine was sort of a 90s reference there, so maybe we could swap out that poster for sort of like a Chad Michael Murray. Like a CMM
and you
sort
were
of
making
energy.
fun of me for Dungeons and Dragons. Jesus. Yeah, for sure. Let's just swap it out.
Yeah, cool.
Sure.
Wow, a lot of
young people are gonna know who that is.
Yeah, a lot of Yikes. A lot of very negative. Yikes. So what demographic are you trying to appeal to exactly? I'm sort of getting, because you very specifically before said that you were appealing to 30-year-olds who play tabletop games, and if they're 30, they're absolutely going to know the movie Idle Hands.
You're just agreeing with me that I was right the first time. I was being flippant because
what I'm
you were
doing
suggesting
is
that my comment was derogatory to our...
I'm finding inconsistencies in your argument. And I'm pointing them out. That's all I'm doing.
So my argument was that I think that's probably a demographic. And then what I said just then about like that not appealing to young people, that's how you sounded to me. It was a joke about the thing that you said. I wasn't suggesting...
You're being really anti-trill right now, okay? And I don't get what the anti-trill energy is that's coming from you, but it's whacked, dude.
Anti-trill.
It's fully cap. You've fully got your cap energy right now, is what it is, okay?
It's actually triple chill. It's triple trill where you're so untrill that you trill again, and then that's like cool because it's ironic.
Definitely. I want to die. Now, my other suggestion is that a scream can only travel so far. So can you take sort of kind of like a, like the CPAP mask that goes around your face, put one of them on, and you attach a tube to it. And then that tube sort of like, it's a long sort of tube. So you scream and it goes into it and then it dissipates over the distance of the tube. By the time it comes out the end, it's really more of a,
Yeah, I like that actually. And you could probably like find a building where like they have those old pneumatic tubes in them that used to move the mail around and stuff.
Yeah.
Get into that.
Definitely.
Actually, that might just mean that your scream is in the walls all night. That could cause a different issue.
Wow. Can we start a band called The Screamers in the Walls?
Yeah, I think we have to legally.
Yeah, that's very good. Oh, your scream is trapped in the walls. I don't know why I like that so much. That's very good.
It's very tactile.
Yeah, it's a real sort of texture to it, which I like.
It's got a lot of texture. Yeah.
Well, solved. Solved that one.
I think we solved that from multiple different angles. Nothing further to help you with this.
You're welcome, and our invoice will be in the mail.
And it is pretty hefty. James, our feature question of the week, which I've entitled "My Job's Unhinged Mandatory Feelings Chart." Following in the vein of my absolute delight and pleasure in just experiencing someone else's bizarre workplace and the decisions that people make under the kind of the impending weight of the end of late stage capitalism, and just seeing the stuff people do, which is very exciting to me. I love watching weird bosses do weird shit.
Someone on TikTok, again, your favorite platform, which by the way, you definitely said that you were going to start book talking, and you did say that you were going to do that while you're on holidays. And I have noticed that you're now back at work and you haven't started book talking. And so just to sum up sort of that section, what the fuck can't? ?
What happened was I messaged my marketing guy and I was like, I want to get on TikTok to do book marketing TikTok. And
first of all, I'm fully offended that you have a marketing guy that isn't me, because I do marketing. So you're cheating on me. Yeah. And what else? And what else is new?
It's not exclusive. We're just feeling it out. It's not exclusive yet. Okay. We're just seeing what's up.
If I'll tell you now, if you two pieces of shit start a podcast together, and if it's advice related or fuck related, I'm gonna be so pissed.
No, he just is a guy that I worked with before in marketing who I'm like, I need help with, like, he helps me write ads for the books and stuff like that, because you're always too busy to help. That's not true, but it felt good to say. No,
wow.
And then it just
so and you've lied about me. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I'm constructing a narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've besmirched my good character, and I'm sorry, but no, Digidana or what'd you call her? You called her
Kilobyte Karen.
Kilobyte Karen is going to protect you from the fucking raining hellfire of a lawsuit that I bring down upon you for besmirching my good character and for not making me your marketing guy. Continue.
It's not that you're not my. It's just that I know a guy that's in marketing that I sometimes ask for marketing advice. It's not
What's
like
his
I have
name?
a marketing guy. Sam.
If it's also James, okay, thank God.
Sam, it's my boy Sammy. Look, here's the thing. Let's move on. How about that? What do you think of that? Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll drop it and I'll call off the lawyer.
Look, you can employ the lawyer off microphone. I'm not against chasing this up offline and litigating and settling privately. Okay, like Zuckerberg, okay. I'm not against settling privately. Remember the social network? You saw how that ended, where you sort of remember that?
No, spoilers. I didn't finish it yet. I'm halfway through.
Yeah, well, it's based on real life, so you can't spoil it. This feature question, James. Let me hit you with the context, and then I'll ask you the question at the end. I work in an office of a large company. The work my team does is often stressful, so sometimes staff morale suffers. The manager of my team has created a feelings chart that has giant emojis representing various levels of being happy, stressed, and angry.
Hell yeah.
There are stickers of all of our names that we're meant to put next to the emoji representing how we're feeling about work at the start and end of the day.
Oh, dude, this is my favorite preschool / kindy classroom. Wait, you said office environment, dog?
For grown-ups, yeah. And at the start and end of the day. This is what's great. By the way,
how you feeling coming in? How you feeling going out?
How you feeling going out?
Yeah.
If participation were fully voluntary, I'd consider it peculiar but largely harmless. However, it's compulsory and participation is sometimes enforced. One day recently, they stalled starting a staff meeting until everyone's stickers were placed.
Damn. Guys, again, sorry, is this a classroom? Guys, can everyone eyes up front, please? Eyes up front, please, everyone.
I'd love to start the sales weekly call about new business. I'd love to start that conversation about new business. But I have noticed, and I don't want to name names, but Frank and Cameron, I've actually looked at the feeling chart, and I've noticed that your stickers aren't up there. So before we discuss the multi-million-dollar deals in our pipeline, I'd like you to go over to the wall and put your name stickers on the giant emoji chart to tell us how you're feeling right now. Because I noticed that you haven't done that before we talk about, again, the multi-million-dollar deals we're trying to close. If you just want to go ahead and do that, we'll wait. No, we'll wait. This isn't an expensive meeting at all. It's the entire sales team. Probably an hour of our time is worth maybe like $200,000. But we'll wait.
Guys, it's not my lunch break that we're eating into. Okay, all right, everyone.
Oh my God,
it's not my lunch break. All right, guys. It's like we'll wait for silence. And then someone coughs and it's like the teacher puts her hand on her head. You know how different teachers have their different little maneuvers that they use. It's like hands on head kind of thing. And she waits, he or she, they wait to see how long it takes for everyone to notice and then start being quiet. Guys, it's your lunch break. All right. So, I'm not fussed about it really, but,
my favorite one is when they go, it's not my lunch break. It's yours. Got my sandwich and I've got my iced coffee right here. I don't need to go anywhere in a hurry. It's your lunch break. And they're always way too specific where you're like, I don't, okay. Which, by the way, it is their lunch break. I was talking to my mom about this because she was a teacher for a long time. And she's like, it is my lunch break. And I'm wasting it sitting here disciplining you fucking idiots. But she's like, I can spend another, because you're an adult, you can spend another 4 minutes, you can mark another page of the paper you're already marking at the end of the class. It's nothing to you. But for a kid, where you're like, you have to sit in silence for 3 minutes, that's like torture for some kids.
I wonder if
this is the business equivalent.
Is the strategy there to sort of Lord of the Flies style, see if they'll turn on each other and force each other to start putting stickers on the board?
Well, here's the thing, James. Perhaps the managers have good intentions with it, but I find it unsettling. And this is what I like. I'm usually selective about who I discuss my feelings with. Yeah, because it's a job and it's none of their business.
Yeah.
More importantly, in a team of our size, we almost certainly have at least a few people dealing with mental health challenges or difficult personal circumstances. When I was struggling through work while suffering from depression, if my manager had forced me to frequently state my feelings, it would have made me even more miserable. I also worry about how responses could be used against us, perhaps by using the presence of positive responses to silence people who believe the job is too stressful or difficult. Yeah. Because, like, if they're like, you need to put yourself on the board, and you're like, I guess I have to put positive because they're pressuring me into it, and you have like a shit 2 weeks of work, and they go, well, you can obviously handle that load of work permanently, Karen. And quietly you're like, I was fucking miserable. I was working like 10-hour days. Like, yeah, but you were under the smiley face part of the chart, so
there'd be
you can hack it.
There'd be a very consistent pattern to where my sticker gets placed. It would be the most unhappy face in the morning, and the biggest smile at the end of the day as I'm fucking jetting out of there.
I don't think mine would move. I think what would happen is it would be the most neutral that there is, right? The most neutral, whatever the face is without the mouth, like no expression.
Right.
And then if I have a client call, it's a sad face. And then days where I don't have a client call, it stays the same. And that would just be me forever at work.
So there's,
that's my range of expression and emotion at work.
So DMAC is never he's never bringing the posy vibes at work. Is that
absolutely not? Okay, that's absolutely not my job. My job is to be like an interlocutor between really complicated pieces of business and tech, and try and like bridge this divide. And so like positivity gets nobody anywhere in my kind of role. Like positivity is something. If I'm too positive, it can have negative impacts for the business long term. Like I have to be really careful about like, I'm excited about that idea. Is a really dangerous thing for me to do. So I just kind of cruise in the kind of new. I'm much like a Klingon warbird. I'm in the neutral zone, James.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's and just to sort of give my sort of gut reaction to that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a nightmare to work with.
Yeah, it's not.
If you give me nothing back, I'm in hell. Yeah.
I'm not impersonable. Like I'm talking. Sorry, I was internally.
What I've done is I've sort of I've scripted all this out, and I'm really excited about sort of like where we're taking this whole thing, and I'm really loving sort of like the layout of it. I think like the brand colors and the imagery and stuff is really good, and I'm really excited about this. What do you think, DMAC? Yeah, it's good. Okay. Why sort of? Do you have sort of? Because sorry, I'm just going to slide my sticker over to the sad column because I have been working on this for months, and I would really sort of love to get sort of a positive sort of some positive feedback from you here. If
it's not work related to what I'm doing, I'm very positive about it. If it's specifically stuff that's like my team. Like it just doesn't.
I'm still sliding the sticker to the saddest part.
We can't get into it.
I just need you to say something nice about the thing that I've been working on for months, or anything.
I like the amount of time that you've put into this.
I quit. You like how much time they've put into it? You are sick, mate. You are sick.
It's also really passive aggressive too, because it's like, are you suggesting that I could have spent less time to get the same outcome? Yeah, it works at a lot of levels.
Right,
James, have you heard of things like this being done before? Should I play along, or push back? If I push back, how do I go about framing that? What I would do is when they when they prompt you to do it, so like in the scenarios where they prompt you to do it, just put it to the most sad it could be every time.
Yes.
Yes. Because they'll stop asking you after a while. Like that has to be the maneuver. Or could you add your own emoji sticker of some description that really throws them off? Like could you manipulate the chart in some way? Change the rules of the game kind of thing. Is that an option?
Right. Sort of add like a I was going to say sort of like a pitchfork or something, sort of like, and you sort of, and maybe a little, what what's it called? Like not a lantern, but like the stick one. Yeah, people they got like a stick and they put it on fire. The people with the fire sticks. You know what I mean?
You about a torch?
That's the one. I knew some fucking D&D person would pop up at some point and tell me what that was.
Fire stick is a way better name.
And
grab
then you
the fire sticks and pitchforks.
Yeah. So, and you're visually trying to communicate to them that I'm starting to onboard people into the torch and pitchfork section. And once we have reached enough people, we will obviously, sort of Frankenstein style, be coming after you.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Could you here's my issue with this whole scenario. I mean, obviously it's fucked. It's cooked. The goose is cooked. We should be very...
Yeah.
You shouldn't work here. But I think there's a fun way that you could, like... Because presumably they're doing this for a reason, which is, like, they want to manipulate their employees in some particular manner that they haven't quite thought through, right? This is, like, classic late-stage capitalism. What if you just sort of, every time they prompted you to do it, just pick the exact opposite of what you're feeling to really throw them off? So, like, if I'm having a really bad day, I go full positive. And they see me moping around my desk, sitting in silence, working, not really interacting. Yeah. And they're like, James seems really happy today. He said he was really happy, but he's acting weird. And then if you're like having the, you close the biggest deal of the company, you hit $1 million in, sales revenue RR for the year, like you're getting that big time bonus, sad face. And you're, shaking hands, high-fiving, you got the brewskis out, you're laughing with your colleagues, and you're just on the big sad end of the spectrum.
Right.
And that makes you unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like, and then, yeah. Or could you burn your sticker name? Or put it in the bin? Just take yourself off the board entirely.
That is, I guess, one way. But, you don't want to fall into, that could have safety implications. What if we start using the sticker board to understand who's in the building, who's in there that day, and we check the sticker board when the fire alarm goes off, that kind of stuff.
And then you get left in a cabinet and you die and
exactly.
Yeah.
And you're like, I didn't know because his sticker wasn't on the board.
Because he wasn't on the board.
This is exactly the type of insane bullshit that HR comes to the marketing department and pulls them into an empty fucking room, and they sit down with them and they say, hey, look, we're really trying to come up with a new system for improving morale around here. And here's what I've got so far, just sort of wanting to get your guys' input and feedback on this. So we've got sticker versions of everyone and a sadness meter. And what we're looking to do, the goal of this is to get everyone on the happy side of the sadness meter. And someone at some point while this was being conceived should have had the sack to say, what the living fuck are you doing?
What are you talking about?
You go, okay. Okay. And sorry, have you guys considered fucking reality at all and how human beings would actually use this, how they would feel about it, and how they would interact with it? Because I think that you've come up with the idea and you've sort of just kept going with it and forgotten that at some point people need to interact with this.
People have to use it. Yeah. Look, it's a funny sort of thing thinking about this in like a physical format, because one of the things that our software does is like, helps you measure employee well-being and things like that. And one of the keys to it is like, it has to be framed and delivered in such a way where they're like, yeah, I feel comfortable being like, yeah, it was a shit week or whatever, with no repercussions being in place. It's a really difficult thing to do. The notion that, and this has to be one of those things that like a CEO at some point said to an HR team, yeah, I want to know how they're going at all times, and I'm not going to check fucking software, just do a thing on the wall. And then they were like, yeah, boss, I think that's a really great idea. We could we could find a way to do that that's like non-invasive and people, private as well, so people don't feel like that. No, on the wall in the foyer, I want everyone to see it is when they come in and when they leave every day. And they went, well, I don't know. I'm telling you to do it, and you need to go and do it.
Look, I know
this is the most like unhinged CEO shit of all time. Truly.
I know that we've gotten a little bit blue on this podcast, which we don't normally like to do.
We're not normally blue.
We don't normally have David talking about his favorite fuck podcast. Okay,
it's not what happens. But
we normally don't have that type of content.
Well, we didn't have that today either. That's not what occurred.
But
James is gaslighting.
Could you
me and you, the viewer?
Right. Okay.
With what he said there. So,
except that we all heard David bring the fuck podcast to the podcast.
It's not my favorite fuck podcast. I don't have a favorite.
Second favorite. It's your second favorite.
Say. I don't listen to fuck podcasts.
Okay, sorry. That got lost in translation. I thought you were bringing your favorite fuck podcast to the show. My apologies.
No, I don't have a favorite fuck. I do have a favorite podcast, which is The Advisory, which you can find in all of your podcast catchers of choice. Because I'm in it and I'm in love with me, and that's sort of the main reason. I like hearing me. I like seeing me. I like thinking about me. It's really good for me when all that stuff happens.
So Black Swan will be announcing next week that David is starting a masturbation podcast because, again, of how much he sort of loves himself, and you heard him say that he loves himself and he loves to hear himself.
James, I bet someone's made that. I bet that exists.
Oh, let's not confirm if that nightmare exists. But again,
no one touch your keyboard or your phone. Let's move on.
We don't like to get blue. David's made it very blue on this episode. I wish he hadn't, but that's where we are. Okay.
I didn't make it blue.
And he's holding a blue book in front of his face.
Yeah.
And oh my God, now he's holding up nudes of himself. Wow, you really need to tune into the video version.
I'm excited to see what clip that ends up being on TikTok.
Oh my God, now he's like touching one of his nips. Anyway, David's made this episode very blue. I apologize. Now, to stay in that headspace, that blue dirty bird headspace. We all hate we hate
blue headspace.
Thank you very much. Please stop showing pictures of your dick. Now.
It's a lot of. I'd have to like save him, get him and line up in OBS. Look, there's a lot of mechanisms. That's very funny. Sorry, he's trying
to throw you off, guys, but they were Polaroids. They were Polaroids, and he was putting them on his forehead.
Physical media.
Yeah.
They're gonna outlive me. They're pressed to vinyl. Okay, they're gonna outlive all of us.
What if? Because, and again, we've established we all don't like this board, and the boss wants it in a very a visual space where everyone sees it every day. What if we start vandalizing it? What if we start on everyone's stickers? We start putting dicks. We start putting boobs. We start putting cartoon drawings of a poop. You know, all of that good comedy gold stuff.
The fun stuff.
But that they're not going to want on display in a public space.
True.
So if I just keep ruining it or putting things on there that they wouldn't want to display, eventually they're just going to say, guys, it's not worth it. Take the board down.
What's the over and under on them being shameless enough to hang this and have people use it in the first place that isn't a detractor? Like, you're running the risk of that happening and then going, all right, still use it though.
Damn, what if the boss loves it?
Yeah, what if he secretly listens to all the fuck podcasts and he's like, yeah, tell me, are you an eggplant or a splash today? Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh, God, no.
It could get worse. You might have opened the doorway to like something even worse. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, what we just said.
What you've done there is, and this is not your fault, you've flown too close to the sun with the idea, and it's backfired. That happens. It happens to every advice giver at some point in their career.
Because my thought process was, couldn't possibly get any worse.
It can always get worse, James.
It can always get worse, yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a tricky situation. My advice would be, perhaps as you sort of sit down and you think to yourself, okay, they're about to start the sales meeting. I haven't done my thing. It's me and this other guy. Could you, and this is controversial, could you sort of stick, because there's always one person at work who's always into the shit. There's always some dorcas who's like, just whatever corporate wants, they always do it. It's every business has one. Could you sort of fuse your name tag to their name tag, so as they do their dorky teacher's pet thing, you're just moving with them? Like, is there a way you can piggyback off someone else's, engagement with this and not have to worry about it?
First of all, I would like to say, no shade to all of the Dorcases listening. But that is, I do like the idea of potentially pinning this on someone else.
Yeah.
And swiping it. This is very antitrust. This is very lots of other films, where you swipe someone's card, you're bit bopping around under their fucking ID, and you're up to no good.
It's very The Bourne Identity. I haven't seen it, but I assume that's what that's about.
It's very True Lies.
It's very House of Cards. I don't know what that's about either.
Sorry, I ran this whole scenario by AI, and I just sort of want to see
thought you might have
what the computer says the solution here is.
What does it suggest?
It is not uncommon for companies to implement employee engagement or well-being initiatives, such as a feelings chart, in an effort to improve staff morale and create a positive work environment. All right, mate, don't toe the company line here, you cunt. All right, I've come to you for a solution, and all you're doing is fucking putting the boot deeper into my neck. However, it is important to consider the potential consequences and impact on employees. All right, it's starting to come back on our side. I like it. In this case, it appears that the managers may have good intentions, but the mandatory nature of the chart and enforcement of participation may be detrimental to some employees, particularly those with mental health challenges or difficult personal circumstances.
Let's just, before we move on, may have good intentions? Yeah, okay. Let's continue. That's not how this works, but let's keep moving.
It is understandable that you may find the chart unsettling and have concerns about how responses could be used against you or your colleagues.
Yep.
If you choose to push back, it may be helpful to frame your concerns in terms of the potential negative impact on employees' well-being and engagement, as well as the lack of trust in the management team. You could also suggest alternative ways to address employee morale and well-being that are more inclusive and voluntary. It is also important to know the company policies, and if there is any mechanism for employees to voice their concerns and feedback, it would be a good idea to use that channel. And in the most AI fashion, you've given me a bucket full of piss. I can't do anything with that.
You know what that is? That's like if you email HR and you're like, I have a concern. That's what they write back to you. If you get the one HR, or you get the 5 out of 7 HR advisors who are like working for the business instead of for the employees, that's what you get back. So what I'm taking away from that is there's a single way to address this problem. Every single time you're going to go up to it, you're going to put your thing into sad, and you're going to turn and announce it to everyone. You're going to go up, move the sticker, turn to everyone and say, I am sad. This makes me sad. Yeah.
And then
I think that's a solution.
You do that every single day, and then hopefully they just take it away. Maybe you can pepper in a couple, every now and then, sort of go up there and put maybe sticker to the sad part. I am sad. This has negative impacts on my mental health and long-term well-being. I am sad. And like that, you really state it publicly for everyone to know.
Because I think that would work, because at some point there's going to be some important clients in the office, and they're going to overhear it, and management's going to be like, Karen, you said this thing, and they have no recourse because they demand that you do it. You're completely in the clear on this at all. Like
you kept me in on my lunch break because I didn't do it one time. So now I do it every day, but I also tell you how I'm feeling when I do it. I'm sad, and it's your fault. You're not going to keep me for my lunch again. It's not going to happen. You can't make
There's a name for this. There's a name for this type of behavior, which is malicious compliance. If you ever worked in engineering, malicious compliance is one of the greatest terms of all time, where someone goes, we ask you to do this, and you go, that's fucking stupid, I'm never going to do that. and you do it so specifically to what they've asked that it is a problem because it highlights the problem of what they've asked. This is like chef's kiss malicious compliance. That's what someone says.
That's what
I don't know
mean.
what you're doing all the time. What do you even do like with your job 9 to 5? Like, we didn't really understand what you're doing. It's like usually a boss is like insecure because they don't know what to tell the higher ups. Then you just CC them on everything for like 3 months. And eventually they're like, oh, I don't know if I need to know about everything.
Eventually they'll come up to you at some point and they say, hey, D-Mac, can I have a chat with you real quick?
Yeah.
If you CC me on another fucking email again, I'm going to rip my teeth out and I'm going to have to, you know that I've had a perfect record of happiness on the fucking sticker board. I'm going to have to start moving my sticker to sad because you really upset me and you're fucking me all the way off. Stop CCing me. You can't. And then at that point you go, oh, of course. Of course. I was just doing that because I thought, you would love that.
Yeah. Sometimes the way to a solution is to do exactly what they've asked you and nothing else and nothing more. Just precisely what they've asked you to do. Because a lot of the time they assume that you'll be a human being about it, and you don't have to be. You can just be like, I'm gonna do it exactly how you asked me because it's a fucking stupid thing to do, and let me just show you how stupid that is by doing exactly how you fucking asked me, and it's gonna drive you fucking mental. And I think 100%. I think even if you were honest and you just did the feelings chart, but every time you did it, you announced it in a loud voice to the office. I think that'd honestly solve it. Just vocalize it every time.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, yeah. Because I'd be like, hey, we should probably take that chart down because last Friday I was on that investor call and they overheard. I was on the phone with Apple, the people that make the MacBooks. And you know what they overheard on the fucking Zoom call? They overheard James screaming into the office that he's sad because it's Friday. So, and they were a little confusing for them.
They did hear, and they had a lot of follow-up questions about him screaming.
Bizarrely,
you can't keep me in on my lunch break. You've done it before. You won't do it again. Let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out, is what he kept screaming.
And then they heard someone say, Mr. Jabini, please, I've got football practice. And he said, well, you have to explain that to Mrs. Cotter, and that's 1 minute. Now we need to sit in silence. And they were very confused by that because we're an ASX-listed business, and it sounded like that our team was in a high school classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was a bit confusing.
And then they heard someone scream, what do you mean I need a pass to go piss? And they were very confused. They had a lot of questions.
It was very confusing because they were looking to invest in our product, and just overhearing that, they had a lot of follow-ups, and it really derailed our talk about the curvature of the investment and sort of like, I guess, where the exponential funding of the venture capital is going to come from and how we're going to divest that into the existing stocks. And they just got really distracted by like the stuff they overheard. And so maybe we should take the chart down. Maybe do you guys think just sort of pop the chart down? Maybe because it seems to becoming an issue. So this is not just my advice for this question. It's my advice for in general in business scenarios where there is some cooked shit someone's making you do. Malicious compliance works every time.
There you go.
Because they can't be like, because if they say do it and you're like, that's fucking dumb, and you just do it exactly to the letter, you've done nothing wrong.
Yeah, dude, what are you going to get upset at me because I've done what you asked?
You gave me an instruction. I did the instruction. Is that an issue? Sorry. I did it. That was my entire life when I was in HR. That's why I left. Is like, they were so like, oh, you need to do this. And I did it all to the fucking letter. And they eventually were like, okay, this is too much. To the point where then they hired me to rewrite the policy, which I thought was very entertaining. Not what I would have done, but very entertaining.
There is nothing better than someone hiring you to do a job. You do that job. You don't do it in the way that they want to. And you go, well, of course we're not going to do it the way you want to because the way you've been doing it doesn't fucking work. So that's why we've been doing it this new way to actually make it work. And then they go, hey, well, I want you to do it my way. And you go, fucking, all right, cunt, we'll do it your way. And then you do it their way. And they go, hey, why isn't this working? And then you go, see?
Yeah.
See?
Like, why are there so many complaints about the quality of our service that we're providing to the business? And you're like, gee, I don't know. And let me tell you, James, that lesson for business is also true in the bedroom. I've tied it all together.
Okay.
In a big bow.
And really, sorry, just to really round out this episode, could you really sort of get down to the brass tacks, nuts and bolts of how those two things are related?
So the thing about business is that it's an exchange of goods and services for fiat currency, and then sex is kind of like you have like a relationship with someone, and then and then they like you and you like them, and then you sort of that happens, and so they're kind of similar in the there's more than one person involved, and it's sort of like multiple parties coming together and seeing. We have to end the show now because I've said that joke and it's too funny. People are gonna be laughing too hard at that punchline. So
because you said coming together,
I said multiple parties coming together. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm glad that you agree. Well, you kind of put me in a position where that seemed inevitable. So,
well, I'm sorry, but you very specifically said, and that relates back to this, and I was like, oh, let's really package it up nice and neatly. I know David, and he really puts. Boy, does that cunt know how to put a bow on something right at the end. You know what I mean?
That is true. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, obviously, let's tie these two things together, and David's going to do it so articulately. But that we're going to get on out of here with a little bow present of business fuck,
I get the impulse. I think that, something we always forget about the way that business, the way that specifically work forms a function in our life, and the way that like intimacy and relationship forms a function in our life is that a lot of the time we decide what the outcome is going to be. We're going to say, okay, we're going to take away this amount of money, or my role here is this, that, or fifth thing. In relationships as well, we create artificial constraints. We say, I have this role in the relationship. I function this way day to day. And then the exceptions are, okay, but when we're in the bedroom, it's this way, it's different. We start to compartmentalize. And I think in the office and with work, you see something pretty similar where, particularly with businesses that grow too quickly and they don't have anyone who's sort of in charge of this stuff and have a functioning HR department, what you can end up finding is that in the same way that in our personal lives, we tend to compartmentalize, lock things down, hold off being vulnerable for specific reasons, and then end up damaging the relationship, I think work goes the opposite direction, where it will try and overreach, over control, over impact the way that people behave. And it's sort of like you kind of have those two diametrically opposed functions, right? Where you have work overexerting itself on you, and then you have yourself overexerting yourself on someone else. And I think those two things run in parallel. And a lot of the time, if you can learn to be vulnerable and accept where you are, if as a person in a relationship, you'll find that it unlocks a lot of gateways and doors, and like you're going to have more authentic, real relationships. And then I think as a business, if you can start to treat your employees like people, right? That's why unionization is so important. That's why divesting shares of the business into people that work in the business. That's why, disseminating the means of production to the worker is so important. That's why like Marxism as an idea exists. And they kind of function in, diametrically opposed ways, but they have the same kind of general underlying thing, which is maybe like, to summarize, treat people like people, whether they're like in your working environment, in your life. It doesn't seem like rocket science, but it seems so difficult for so many people in so many contexts and environments, whether that be work, whether it be with your friends. And it's frustrating to me that it's very complicated and there's a lot of systems involved. But if you come at it with the understanding of like, I'm talking to a person who has feelings and an interior world, and I am a person with feelings and an interior world, and you open yourself up to that experience, whether it's work, love, friendship, whatever it is, you're going to find yourself having a better quality of life. Even if it's just like talking to a fucking waiter in a restaurant. Right, realizing they are having a day that is different to your day.
That they are a complex individual?
Yes.
And that is a human being that you're interacting with.
Yeah. I went for lunch with my mum today, and they brought us the wrong burgers, and he was like we realized it as they brought them out, and we were like, oh, what's the other one? He said this, and we went, it's fine, like something we'll eat, we'll work it out. Like it's, or it could have been a whole fucking ordeal. But at a certain point, it's like, you have to decide when am I choosing to treat this person as a person within the structures around them, like a business, right? Or like in a personal relationship or a friendship. And when am I just like treating like a fucking human being that has feelings? And I don't know, like for me, I think that the troubling part of this is what we were talking about earlier with like the sex positivity stuff, where, as you said, it's like a good thing. Like we should be
100%
comfortable as a society to talk about this stuff. The problem is it's always, not always, sorry, that's disingenuous. It has the habit, or it can end up backdooring stuff which is like harmful overall. Like the idea that you could listen to a sex positivity podcast and then accidentally ingest and onboard anti-scientific ideas about certain things.
Right.
I'm trying to say it without getting flagged.
Yeah.
The idea that those two things are kind of intrinsically linked, and we don't have good mechanisms to inoculate. We don't teach kids, and I'm saying we as like a general practice. We don't have ways to teach kids as they grow up to become adults to inoculate themselves from the charlatans of the world who will find the way in, which might be sex positivity, and sell you fucking healing crystals or whatever. And same with the business, where it's like, yeah, it's a good salary, it's a great location, it's work you want to do, and then you find yourself working long hours, you're burnt out, or you know, in the example we had here, like, you know, they're making you fucking put your feelings on a chart.
Yeah.
Like we don't teach people good mechanisms to like identify those bad parts of the systems, and then like what do you do about it? Like it's the part of like end stage capitalism we haven't figured out. In a working environment, one of the things that helps is you don't need to figure it out yourself. That's why you unionize, because a bunch of people can look at it holistically and go, that seems bad. And we have the tools to identify why it's bad and collectively bargain for something better. And I think a lot of the time in work specifically, unionization gets a bad rep because people think of it as this like anti-competitive, antitrust mechanism, but like its whole function is like to protect the worker.
Right.
And the worker is the person, right? Like unionization exists to protect the people and to stand up for human rights, where necessarily a business can't, because a business has to min-max the curve, right? They have to spend the minimum amount of money and make the most amount of money. Generally, that's like how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And unions are like the buffer between that, where they stop people being exploited, or they try and stop people being exploited. And I guess I just think it's really interesting, like this cottage industry of the self-help backdooring into like these other problematic things seems so interrelated to the way that media has painted like what work should be and how unions function within it. They seem bizarrely interlinked to me, like conceptually. It's just a really interesting like parallel there, where they kind of go in the opposite directions, but they get to the same outcome. It's like people are people, and we should just remind ourselves of that more.
Absolutely. And really quick, I'd just like to point out to people that when David said that they brought out the wrong meal for him and his mum, and he said, no, that's fine, you know, we'll sort it out, we'll eat them. Actually, what he does like to do is he carries around with him sort of like a really small chart, sort of like a happiness to sadness chart, and he puts it on the table, and he pulls out a little David sticker, and he says to the person working at the restaurant, it's a heinous, he says, "Oi, cunt," and then he holds up the board, and then he puts the sticker in the sad part, and he goes, "That's because you done it wrong," and then he eats the burger anyway. So it's pretty fucked up to watch, but you know, that's his system.
It's like
and
double gaslighting. Yeah.
And David is a person, and you know, we just need to accept him. You know what I mean? And that's sort of the takeaway.
That's my truth. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this week's episode of The Advisory. And just really for dipping your toes into the existential bucket that is my thought process sometimes.
Welcome to David's mind. It's a cesspool in here, and there are many ideas swirling.
Yeah. I also like that I took the bait of like, you can't tie this together. I can do anything, motherfucker. Look, thank you for watching this episode of The Advisory. We love doing this every week. We are live on twitch.tv/Black Swan Society every week, Thursday night, 6 to 7 p.m. AES If you can't catch that, you can catch the VODs on Twitch, or you can catch the VODs on youtube.com/@BlackSwanSociety. That's where you can catch all of our content where we post the video. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at BLK Swan Society. Following us in those social medias, engaging. Thank you. I've been practicing in the mirror for 3 weeks. That's what I was doing on the break. We didn't take a week off.
David does nude squats in front of the mirror, and he says to himself, BLK Swan Society. I've seen the video. It's pretty fucked up.
What you're not imagining for the listener at home is I'm not just squatting. It's a weighted squat.
And he has one of those. He's got one of those like ice masks on.
Yeah, I'm wearing the Patrick Bateman ice
mask.
Yeah. Following us on social media and telling other people about the show really helps us out. It helps people that you think might enjoy the show find the show. One of the best ways to help people find the show that you think might enjoy it is to tell them directly. Tell a friend, hey, I think you'll think it's funny, or hey, this is an interesting episode, whatever the reason is. We appreciate you sharing it with your friends and your peers and your colleagues. Otherwise, if you want to ask us something or you have some feedback, but only positive feedback, you can email us blackswansociety.mail@gmail.com. That's blackswansociety.mail@gmail.com. You can send us advice, questions, positive feedback, and those are the only two things we accept. Otherwise, if you're consuming this on a podcast catcher, whether it be Spotify, iTunes podcast, wherever you catch your pods, giving us a rating or a review really does help us out. And if you give us a 5-star review that's kind of funny, I might read it out at the end of the show. We really do appreciate it. It helps us do the algorithm thing. Okay, it's all new media is about algorithms and reviews. And giving us a genuine review, if you do enjoy the show, is a great way to help us out, to help more people find us, because we think what we do is really fun and interesting, and we love doing it, and we'd love to find more people that enjoy the kinds of things that we make. Thank you once again for listening to this episode. We appreciate the heck out of it. Sorry for getting so blue so early, but you know what? Sometimes that's how we do. We got to get blue. James, say something and then I'll...
Oh, no, dude. I love that so much.
See,
There's two things to add to that. Yeah. One, your Fight Club-esque task of the week is to find one person on the street and scream, "Oi, can't watch the advisory" to them.
Yep.
That's your task. Do with that what you will. And the second one being, when David was talking about getting blue, sometimes that's how the cookie crumble, and sometimes that's how the dong swang.
And we have been the advisory. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll catch you same bad channel, same bad time next week. Goodbye. Thank you for your service.
Goodbye. I'm moving from this episode. I'm moving my sticker to the happy side of the chart.
I'm moving mine to the aubergine side of the chart.
Oh, 2023 gang, he getting randy.